Hello, dear friends. Another video, a reflection on healing the inner wounded child. But first, let us call on the messengers of God to guide us so that what we share with you is from the heart and in no way seen as a dogmatic response. And behind me, you will see a beautiful painting of the Archangel Metatron surrounded by blue lights. And those lights are in the shape of a heart, signifying the mystical heart of a loving God of all faiths and none. And I come to you as a lay Franciscan, enclosed, a member of the Teo community of Interfaith Franciscans. I'm an independent, really, because I've come away from the Catholic Church, mainly because of my own survival. Because for many years as a nursing monk, I guess I had a lot of inner wounded child stuff to deal with. And I didn't know how, because then we didn't have the experts that they have today. Then we had to just get on with it. We were often told, oh, pull yourself together. And one thing I know I'm not is a pair of curtains. But how do we heal the inner wounded child? First, let us look at the inner wounded child. If a child grows up in a family or in an environment where it is fed on a diet of negativity, fear, self-loathing, where there is no love, where there's no parental support, and where one is exposed to violence, to abuse, then that little child grows up with a lot of scar tissue in its memory. And eventually it becomes dysfunctional as an adult. In my case, as the eldest son of 9, growing up in an Irish Catholic family in Dublin, my parents wanted for nothing because my father's family were very wealthy and well connected. So whatever they needed, they got, or whatever they wanted, they got. But the one thing that I found they didn't have was love. And my father was a beautiful man, a businessman, but I believe that he was a wounded soldier too. But he was an extremely violent man, and I bore the brunt of many of his outbursts, and it left me deeply scarred throughout my whole life. And even in the monastery, there was that fear mindset that God will punish you, and that if you turn your back on God and leave, you'll be disgraced, and you'll disgrace your family. A lot of fear, unnecessarily so. But now today, thank God, at 63, I thank God for an experience in my life 13 years ago that was very painful, where my dear friend died of cancer, age 42. And we were great mates for 28 years. We were monks together. We were dear friends. We were blood brothers, really. But then when he died, something happened. A light went out in my life. I lost my best pal. And 3 months later, I plucked up the courage and asked for help. And my best friend was my GP, put me on Prozac. And that was the beginning of a new experience of battling with mental illness. And today, I battle with bipolar. But I don't see it as a disadvantage. I see it as a grace. Because Instead of fighting the dynamics, I embraced them and I turned them into a prayer. But out of that painful time came a lot of good things too, because for the first time in my life, I couldn't run away. I had to face the demons. I had to face my inner wounded child, which was hurting. And that inner wounded child ruled my life and almost ruined my life. Because it was fed on negativity. And it didn't really understand selfless love. So my gut feeling about the whole scenario of inner wounded child is this. Nothing is impossible for God. Absolutely nothing. But it takes courage. It takes courage to ask for help. Because it's so easy to get into the name and blame game and blame everyone else rather than take responsibility for oneself. And as a nurse for 38 years, once that uniform went on, my troubles were in the past, and I was in the arena of being needed, the rescuer, the doormat. But today, I'm not a doormat. Because when clients ring me today who say, "Oh, Brother Sean, do you remember me when I met you at such and such a place 4, 5, 6 years?" I say, "Yes, how are you?" And then my heart says, "Are you still having the same problems?" "Oh, yes, brother, how did you know?" I said, "And are you ringing me about them?" "Yes, I am. How did you know?" And I just say, "Sorry, pet, ring the Samaritans." "But you're a brother. You're supposed to listen." I said, "Listen, pet, if you haven't got the courage to face your fear, then why, after all this time, are you playing victim with yourself and not taking responsibility for your life?" And then they slammed the phone down on me. And that's the courage we're given. And one of our dear friends in the community had a farewell party for all her fair weather friends. And she wined them and dined them and they loved it. But guess what? At the very end, she asked them to see their mobile phones. And they all looked at her thinking she'd lost it or she was barking mad. And then she said, "Now I want you to do me a favor. Will you delete my name and number from your address book in your mobile phone?" And they looked in horror. Because she said, "Now is the time for me to take responsibility for my life. And one thing I do not want are people who dump their stuff. And when I need them, they're not there for me. So I'm glad you enjoyed yourself, but get a life." Now that takes real courage. But the inner wounded child, that inner wounded child can be a difficult child if we don't face whatever. And we have hope that will take us from being a victim to being a liberated child. And it's important to say to that child, it was not your fault. It was that person's fault. And it's important to forgive the person who has caused you the greatest pain. And that takes courage. But I'm a great devotee of Jesus, the barefoot Galilean, who says, "When you call on me, I will hear you. And when you ask me for help, I will deliver you. Ask and you will receive." And the message is simple. If we want to go forward, free of all of that painfulness and baggage, and live a fulfilled life, then we have a duty of care, don't we? To heal that wounded child and say, "I love you. And now I release you. And I thank you. And now let us begin our new journey." The inner wounded child can be a great teacher, but are you willing to allow everything come a positive rather than a negative? Take care. God bless.